Hello and welcome to Raider HQ After Dark. I'm your host Raider. And in this video, this is going to be part 3 of the live Q&A follow-up question and answer session. So I've had a lot of technical difficulties and none of my recordings that are on my main computer transferred over to the cloud. So I'm having to improvise and record this. So just to show you guys here real quick, this is currently my studio, so real log cabin-esque right now. So that's not a CGI image. That's currently where I'm recording stuff. So you will probably hear the wildest stuff in the background. But let's get on with the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do this one little thing at a time. So bear with me. So let's go ahead and start with the question and answers. So for Thomas C is where I believe that we left off. Is urinary frequency secondary to hypertension easy? Hold on just 1 second. Sorry about that. So let me go ahead back here to the question. So Thomas C, is urinary frequency secondary to hypertension easy? That's all going to be determined by the science. So that'll be determined by your medical examiner and the fact pattern of your particular condition. It's as easy as a doctor makes it. It's not presumptive. Urinary frequency is not presumptive. I haven't seen urinary frequency secondary to hypertension very often, but that's just because it's typically not claimed that way. Now, Hunter Evans. Hey, Raider, was diagnosed GAD after explaining my deployment stressor. Psych said I didn't have PTSD because I don't have flat. I think I've already done this one. I think you might have posted it twice, but PTSD has nothing to do with flashbacks and whether or not you can remember your dreams. It has to do with a certain number of symptoms that you have. You have to have a certain number of specific symptoms in order to qualify for the PTSD diagnosis. So just Google the DSM-5 for PTSD, and that should give you the boundaries as to what symptoms you would need to demonstrate, manifest, whatever, in order to get the PTSD diagnosis. So, Terry, is a diagnosis of IBS for MUCME required? It's not necessarily required. A diagnosis of IBS isn't. So just having, because any kind of lower GI tract, functional disorder like diarrhea, constipation, things like that, those can be granted under the MUCME. The symptoms themselves can be granted under the MUCME under the 7319 DC code. Or can the examiner opine a diagnosis based on all your medical? Both. I mean, you can have the diagnosis for IBS, but it's not needed. You can have the symptoms. As long as your GI specialist is leaning towards IBS, that's probably going to be helpful for you. Let's see here. So, hey, Raider, how do you know best how to fight in a higher level review for a narcolepsy increase? It's rated under the same guidelines as epilepsy. Okay, I think, Thrasher, I think I've talked to you about this in an email, but because narcolepsy doesn't have its own diagnostic code, it does get the 38 CFR Part 4 specifically tells the rater that they have to rate it under the epilepsy criteria. So there's no way around it. A higher level review will not actually benefit you because, it has to be under the epilepsy code let me see if I can, find it here. So 8108, if you go to 38 CFR Part 4 and you review 8108 for narcolepsy, it tells the rater that they have to rate it under the epilepsy criteria. So that's one of those situations, if you've ever heard me talk about what is undebatable for like a CUNE, because the 38 CFR is so explicit for that, if a rater does anything else or a DRO does anything else other than rated under the epilepsy criteria, that would be an undebatable, clear, and unmistakable error. So I do apologize for that, Thrasher. Armando. Filed lumbar pain, expecting CMP anytime now. Failed to mention pain on the thoracolumbar spine and x-ray shows arthritis. Should I amend the low lumbar to include? No. So, Armando, what happens is that the neck is separate. Everything below the neck is one single rating decision. So the fact that you mentioned pain on the lumbar, you're good. Travis Bond. Good evening. Is it bad my VSO is asking the DRO to reopen from 2012 that was denied and said it was because of a missed CMP? Would it be better to... that's going to be, Travis, that's going to be based upon what's going on. It has the potential to be a good thing, but when you start asking the DRO to start opening up random rating decisions, it opens you up to all rating decisions being reviewed. So it's not necessarily good or bad. It'll just get you a new exam. Now, the effective date of your award will be dependent on whether or not the facts found at the time, you had a diagnosis at the time. So, yeah. And then, so I hope that helps, Travis. I know it probably doesn't, but A, filing a BDD claim cannot find my initial DOD, okay, MedBoard entrance physical. Will this be? No, it won't be an issue, A. So it won't be an issue because you're not the party that is burdened to find that. The military is the party that is burdened to find that, to see if there's any aggravation that could potentially be in play. If they can't find your entrance exam, then they're going to treat everything like the presumption of soundness is intact for you. So that means that if you have a diagnosis of, let's say, your knee, and you go through the BDD process for your knee and among other things, and they find that there's a diagnosis, then you'll be granted directly for that. So I hope that helps, A. And then LA Saint Part 1 and Part 2. Hey, Raider, I filed multiple claims and got them granted, but oh my goodness, was deferred, and I've heard nothing about the sleep apnea I submitted. I received a decision letter. Okay, Part 2. Stating all of this, but nothing about sleep apnea at all. It's back to evidence gathering for new examination, but Lish, but nothing for sleep apnea. Do you think an ACE exam is being done? Thanks. So, okay. So first of all, the L word disorder that you have is unique. And anytime you come across something unique, the VSR and the rater are going to be very, very particular about it, because they're going to slow down because they don't know what body system it's associated with. They've got to do a lot of research on it because it's not one of their normal conditions. So that's fine. Now, sleep apnea not being mentioned, I would wait until you get the final decision for that, and then look to see when your claim, like if the end product for your current claim closes. So if you go to va.gov and it says, once you get your another rating decision and it says, oh, you have no open claims, then I might go and do a higher level review and talk about the missed issue of sleep apnea. But until the claim actually closes, there's nothing that we can do, because the VA still has the potential to raise the sleep apnea to issue, and they still have the potential to do the right thing in terms of the sleep apnea and how it is processed. And then I'm going to end it with Teddy Wilson. Hey Raider, after a CMP is complete, how long does it sit in the national work queue? Well, that depends. So sometimes what can happen is there's supposed to be a 2 week minimum period for examinations once they're complete. Once the CMP exam is complete, there's like a 2 week period, maybe longer, depending on the type of examination or condition that you're working with. And what happens is that we'll just go with the vendor or the VA has a quality review process in which they review to make sure that everything, all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. Now, that process isn't too good because we have to defer it back all the time. But that's typically it. So you should expect to have the actual so that's on the vendor side, the vendor and the VA side. What also happens is not all the time, but once a DBQ is done, the the claim should be sent back to the RO that did requested the exam to have the VSR look at it to make sure that it's substantially complete. That sometimes happens. More often than not, what happens is we have to wait until the tracked item for the exam request itself runs out before it then gets put into the queue, the National Work Queue's queue, to be given back to the NRO. So there's no real hard, fast process for it, like how long it would take. There are some boundaries. Like it should be a month since when the exam request was made. That's hopefully what happens. But um, so I guess that's my best answer. But like with everything with the VA, there are these really weird exceptions where things don't behave like they should. I've seen it to where for whatever reason there was a glitch in the system and the vendor thought that they sent it to us, but we never received anything. That can happen also. It's actually like a 1 in 100 chance that that happens for whatever reason. I don't know what the vendors do, but they do something to where they confuse the system and it doesn't like the DBQ doesn't get pushed over. So what happens is when the tracked item time limit comes up, then the VSR will review it to see, wait a minute, they're saying they completed the exam, but we're not showing it. So the VSR then has to get with an exam liaison, and that exam liaison will go talk to the vendors and say, hey, could you please re-push this to us and, get it to us. At which point in time, the process of receiving it, a VSR will receive it, review the thing, review the DBQ, determine in their opinion whether or not it's substantially complete, and then they will send the claim RFD. And then after that, it goes back into my development stage, like my development video, where if, your claim is awesome and it'll get the RO points, then they'll do what is known as a pass through, where the VSR will, the coaches for the VSR will grab it and give it to that RO's rating authority to where the raters can then just do that claim real quick. Now, if if it's a more complex claim or if it's a claim that's a partial rating, then it'll go back to the national work queue and get slotted to be given to an RO for a rater to review. I know that's a little bit more wordy of an answer, but in summary, there's no time limit for us. There's no way for us to determine how long it'll take. But anyway, that is my far and away review of your what is it, 10/8/2025 live Q&A answers. So this is me coming. I'm sitting right here at this desk in front of this laptop that is currently on fire. So thank you for bearing with me. I should be back up and running to normal procedures on Tuesday, and I'm going to have a live stream on Tuesday. But I'd like to take the time to thank all of the people that are subscribing. I think we're up to 5,800 subscribers currently, if my math is doing the mathing. But yeah, so that's about all I got for you today from Auxiliary Raider HQ in a log cabin. So Anyway, guys, thank you, and we'll talk to you later. Raider out.